Hello, I'm Robert Walker for the Facebook group Doomsday Debunk, where we help very scared people by fact-checking the stories that scared them. So this time there's this story that goes, scientists, human extinction is extremely likely, and things like that. Now, these scientists, there's a little bit of science that the scientific paper is about, but the scientific paper does not prove that human extinction is extremely likely. It doesn't even prove that it will happen at all. In fact, if you look at it, if you think about it, our parents, grandparents, going back, they eventually go back far enough, according to this theory of evolution, there are different kinds of creatures that evolved eventually into us. And if you go way, way back, this is something a little bit like this. This is not meant to be the exact one, but this is a very early form of multicellular life. There are only two types of cell in this creature, and it's got the flagellated cells with the collar structures which move it through the water, and the amoeboid cells on the inside divide into new cells and help the colony to grow. So, and then even further back, then all there were these microbes, and the very primitive microbes without a nucleus. This is before you had multicellular life at all. And these then some of them, they just these very primitive microbes, they just split in two. So you don't have any sex back then, you just have the microbes splitting. But they do exchange DNA in various ways between each other. But they can exchange DNA between two microbes of completely different species, completely different genuses. So completely different, even the right up to the phylums, they can just, any prokaryote can exchange DNA with any other. And so that's what we've got going way back. And those ancient microbes, they didn't go extinct, and this didn't go extinct. And then I could bring up many other examples along the train. The little creatures that carried up trees at the time of the dinosaurs, and that eventually evolved into us. They didn't go extinct; they just evolved into us. So going forward, I mean, that's billions and billions and billions of years, and 4.5 billion years getting on for well over 4 billion years or more that we've got backwards of ancestors that didn't go extinct. So it's entirely possible that going forward into the future, we just continue for billions of years into the future, evolving into other creatures. After all, we are a very successful creature in the world, and many other successful creatures like, for instance, the whales, they're going back and back and back, but the coruscants, they're very ancient, they've hardly changed for millions of years. And the, what's it called? The dawn sequoia, which was a tree that was discovered in China, that had barely changed since the time of the dinosaurs. And now it's a kind of ornamental tree, so it's great to be spread around. But it was only a few left in China that had managed to survive all those millions of years. But so we can easily be a survivor that survives, especially with our technology, and where we are certainly at no risk of extinction at present. And we are of least concern. But actually, interestingly, the IUCN Red List actually classify human beings there, and we are of least concern. Population trend increasing, number of mature detailed individuals, you can expand that. And what's our habitat? Grassland, artificial, that's houses and things, terrestrial, forest, shrubland, desert, rocky areas, e.g. inland cliffs, mountain peaks, savanna. And we even had, like Jacques Cousteau wants to live at the bottom of the sea. He wanted to. He tried to get it started. We certainly could do it technologically. We could live in space. We can live anywhere. We can live in places that no other creature could live. When you think about the ISS, they're not back up there, and there could be human beings living in there. So we are very, very resilient. And it's not just us. Whatever we bring with us. So our sheep, cows, dogs, cats, pets, rabbits, goldfish. All our garden plants are bees. And as long as we have gardeners, we have gardens, and we have the seed vaults, and we can keep all the plants that have preservable seeds will be preserved in seed vaults no matter what happens. So all those seeds, they're not going to go extinct either. So we're a great preserver of species if you take a larger picture. I know that at the moment a fair number of species are going extinct because of us, but we can also stop extinctions, and this is something we're going to be able to do. And we already are doing in many ways, and we just have to do more of that and get ready. And then the Extinction Rebellion in the UK claim that human beings can go extinct this century from climate change. But then you ask them, what's your site? What's your basis for that? And they never have anything. And sometimes, like for instance, someone just commented on my video, one of my videos the other day, and said that civilizations could collapse, the situation is very dire, that the IPCC say that, which they don't. The IPCC do say that this climate change is very serious. They don't say that civilization is going to collapse. They don't say that human beings or high animals or anything like that is going to go extinct. And so a couple of things that I'll ask you a couple of questions. What do you think is the extinction rate for amphibians, which is the fastest of the birds and mammals and reptiles and so on? Then amphibians have the fastest extinction rate at present. So how many do you think are going extinct per century? And then another thing you can think about is how long do you think it takes for all the ice in Greenland to melt? If we continue with the same carbon dioxide emissions we have today until we run out of fossil fuels. So I'll just give you a few minutes to think about that, and then I'll scroll down. So let's see what the answer is. The answer is that it would take up to about the year 3000, and that would involve keeping carbon dioxide levels up at the level we have now. But it's not going to happen, because with renewables already it's going to be competing. I know it's not turning around yet, and they're still slightly increasing, but it's going to turn around inevitably anyway, because of the growth of renewables. But if we were to somehow manage to keep the carbon dioxide levels up as they are now, all the way through to 2200, then this is what the world would look like in 2300. We have about in the year 3000. So about 1,000 years from now. And it's either then, or it could, they don't know for sure, between 72%, it could be 3/4 of the ice left. So how is a world that's going to look like that in 2100 going to be too hot for humans? And naturally the scientists don't say that. It's just activists that say that, and junk science. And I haven't got the thing. Maybe I'll add it to this. But yes, here we are. Anything make us extinct? No, it's not that one. Sixth mass extinction. I can bring that up. So the answer for the frogs and amphibians. Let's see if I got it there. But there we are. So the answer for the amphibians is that it's currently running at around 2% per century. These are what ones that are actually being saved, and this has gone from, it's on recovery, it's gone from threatened to least concerned, like us. And so yeah, let's bring up the amphibians. There we are. So these are the extinction rate at present. This is through to 2012, and it's reasonable. It hasn't really changed since then significantly. So, vertebrates are going at about 1% per century, and mammals a little bit over. Birds are the least at risk, and the IUCN comes to the same conclusion going to the future of all these. Except the reptiles, even less. Insects are least of all. So we get all these stories about insects going to go extinct. Actually, the extinction rate for insects is about 10%. They don't have the insects in this one. But so I'll talk about insects when we get to the forward in the future. But this is so reptiles 0.48%, and amphibians is the highest at 2%. That means that after 1,000 years, a fifth of the amphibians would go extinct if we didn't do anything about it, which of course we are. And that's also not taking account of the fact that a lot of that 2% is because of that amphibian disease, which is pretty much done. It was worst in the 1980s, and it's pretty much over now. And some of them are recovering. So now it's true that we can get worse. Oh yes, there's a killer frog disease, and that's the golden frog, which is in captivity, but hasn't gone extinct because it's in captivity, and then they hope eventually to return it to the wild. But they won't do it until the disease is either completely gone, or they've found some way to make it resistant to it. So then we also have the red list, which is another way of looking at it, and what percentage are currently endangered. And then if you look at that, these green ones are least concerned, like us. You can see, like the birds, they're amongst the best, and certain kinds of fishes, bony fishes, but the birds. And then some of them, like cycads, they're kind of the worst. These are the best. So then if you look at the average of them all, it's 27%, but that includes, do I have the numbers there? Okay, so that includes, I bring up the thing. You have the definition of threatened. Yeah, threatened, because a vulnerable category, which only have a 10% of chance of extinction by 2100, can also be if there's got a small population or it's fragmented. So that's maybe 27%, which have got maybe a 10% chance. So you divide that by 10, you've got maybe 2.7%. But so you've got a few percent, maybe in the future, that would be about the chance would go extinct if we're not doing anything about it. But if we just let them sort of go away and do their thing, or being just impacted by us without us helping them. But obviously we're going to be helping them, and we are helping them, unlike the humpbacked whales, so it's not going to be as much as that. And that's it getting worse. But then that's that's not very precise. So that's it'll be a bit more than that, be a few percent more than that, because that vulnerable includes ones that are at least that. So if we really didn't do anything, then and we just stopped trying to protect them, and just went on doing our thing, then for sure quite a few percent would go extinct by 2100. But we can stop this. We don't need to do this at all. So anyway, so that's that. We can, and DipBest has looked at that. Anyway, I don't want to go. I can talk about that all separately, but main thing is to get back to this study and just finish it. So what they did is that what it is, they just counted back to when human beings began, and if they went back to say 200,000 years, and then they said in this calculation, it was quite a strange way of thinking, but people just try these out to see where it leads them, and they said, suppose we had a constant rate of risk of extinction, which is obviously not the case, but suppose that every year had the same risk of extinction all the way back from when human beings first evolved all the way to the present, then and then what would that extinction rate be to have at least a 1 in a million chance to get this far? And they came to the conclusion that the extinction rate per year can't be larger than 1 in 14,000 per year. But if they then go back to this one, which is 315,000 years old, and it looks anatomically like human, and then if you use that, it goes to around 1 in 22,800. To go back to the emergence of Homo, Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthal, and so on, the whole the lineage of what eventually led to us, then then it becomes about 1 in 140,000. But why I mean, I don't really understand why there's a cut-off, you know. I mean, it's kind of rather arbitrary when you call it a new species. It's not, I mean, it's fun to whether in, well, they even say that they call Homo sapiens and the Neanderthal man different species, although they could interbreed with some difficulty. You know, sometimes kind of increased risk of their children dying because of that. But obviously in some, at least people think, but so some of the papers say. But they did happen. We have some Neanderthal genes in us, and so it is a little bit fluid what counts as separate species anyway. And why would you do this calculation just going back to when humans emerged as a separate species, and why not go all the way back to them or to them? So I'm not really quite sure I understand the logic behind this, but it's quite interesting. It's sort of interesting anyway. But it's got lots of simplifications. It's obviously not a constant extinction rate, and it's obviously and they're getting an upper bound. So they're not saying that this was the extinction rate. They're saying it couldn't be more than that. And it's of no value at all in deciding risk for present-day human beings, which is what the newspaper articles were doing. And we don't have any risk, and then from climate change certainly. And then someday I'll look up in that, could anything make extinct this century? And I looked all the way through, and I can't see it. So we can go and have a look at that at some point. So the only I'll look at that another day, but you can read it. So I think that's that. I just wanted to do a short video. I didn't want to go on and on and on numerous digressions with this. It's quite simple, really. The answer is no. They have not proved that human extinction is extremely likely. They have not proven that it will happen at all. And just like our numerous ancestors and different species in the past, it's not likely that we continue as a human beings for billions of years into the future, unless we, for some reason, stabilize ourselves. And we could do that. We could use genetic manipulations to make sure that if you change from the human of the 20th century, and if you sort of evolve wings or something, because, for instance, suppose there were human beings and big human colonies on the moon or on Titan, then you'd be able to fly by flapping wings with you flapping like gliders kind of things, attach them to your arms. You can imagine over hundreds of millions of years that human beings develop big fleshy long fingers and big fleshy things or something in order to be able to flap around and just fly around. So I mean, there could be lots of reasons for human beings to evolve in the future in different ways, and the question would be: do we actually fix ourselves in our present time? Do we kind of sort ourselves up? Do we have genetic manipulation in the future where you could just design our bodies, or do we evolve in many different ways, as it seems quite likely? And there's no way to know. That's part to find the future for us at present, the kind of rate at which humans evolve to know what's going to happen between now and then. We can just do what we can with our generation and give the future that comes from us as good a world and a good present as we can give them to live in.